Good evening. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand. Available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Thursday, June 8th, 2023. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson. I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Jonathan Casañas. This evening, we bring you the news of and perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but is designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission is to support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbian, trans, student youth, seniors, HIV, AIDS, healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
All right, well, let's welcome John Hayden, a journalist for 28 years. He now works for several outlets, including Out South Florida as senior reporter and community editor, covering politics, entertainment, and local events directly impacting the LGBTQ plus community. John's interviewed everyone from presidents to Oscar winners and so on. He's going to as many Pride events as he can, which is pretty insane, over the next 10 days. If you see him, say hi, give him a sweaty hug, and tell him hi from me, and welcome John.
Sweatier the better, Jonathan. Let's welcome anchor Buddy Frey. Buddy's a longtime South Florida resident. He enjoys our large, diverse community and supports many of our local nonprofits, including Julian's Fountain of Youth and Stonewall National Library Museum. Welcome, Buddy.
Thank you very much. Now let's welcome anchor Bonnie Builder. Bonnie is the premier South Florida bodybuilding drag queen. She is an event hostess extraordinaire, performer, and recent graduate of FIU. This big mouth, buff Barbie comes to life with a microphone and a spotlight. Welcome, Bonnie.
Thank you, my love. And if you like what you see, you can find me on Instagram at Bonnie Builder, as well as Patreon, patreon.com/Bonnie Builder. Now, enough about me.
Never.
Let's welcome anchor Bob Hentschel. Bob is an accountant with local construction company. He is a member of the planning committee for My Hollywood Pride and a member of various GLBTQ plus Disney Facebook groups, including the Gay Pride Disney Monorail Crawl. He describes himself as a nice widow man with a house in Dania Beach, a Disney Vacation Club membership, and a self-supporting cash flow.
Okay.
All right, no bad. So, interested singles can find him on Facebook and Twitter as Bob Hentschel. Welcome, Bob.
Well, thank you, darling. And the crawl was last week. And I want to thank Al Ferguson for joining us, along with John Holt, who used to be part of this network. And thank you, Al, for graciously meeting some of my friends who are viewers. Thank you. We had 71 people at the crawl, which beat last year's 61. We had 223 for the picture on Saturday, which beats last year's 207. And I just have a small bone to pick with the MSNBC. I got reports that my face got flashed across MSNBC in related to this year's event. Problem was the picture was 2 to 4 years old. Don't ask me how I know.
So somehow I feel like you snuck that one in.
I'm just saying it was an old picture because I had significantly more hair and less gray in it.
And you're upset by this?
It was an old picture.
Girl, dude, don't mess with small bones.
I know.
Don't go picking at small bones. You just stick to big bones, baby.
Yeah, we like gray around here.
Yes.
I like gray everywhere. Okay, we are the reporters for Queer News Tonight. And this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Thursday, June 8th, 2023.
All right, let's get started. First, that's Queer of Business. Jen Psaki points out Fox News calls to boycott woke products while supporting LGBTQ plus causes.
So you may have noticed Republicans really like to pitch themselves as the pro-business, anti-cancel culture party. But they have a big carve out for businesses that openly promote LGBTQ plus rights. You've probably seen some of these headlines. Brands like Bud Light, retail chains like Target and Kohl's, teams like the Los Angeles Dodgers, all facing outrage from the right for their LGBTQ plus partnerships and merchandise. They've melted down over a trans woman receiving a personalized beer can. They nearly lost their minds over the sale of pride flags on kids' clothing and the fit of some swimwear. That's what's animated these right-wing boycotts. But all of this outrage and these boycotts from the wing of the pro-business party is actually hurting the bottom line for some of these companies. And Fox News can't get enough of it somehow.
Jen Psaki, a former White House press secretary for the Biden administration, pointed out how Fox News' outrage over businesses promoting LGBTQ plus rights doesn't exactly ring true. Psaki highlighted how, despite Fox News' recent, as she calls, eerie-looking tweet attacking Target for supporting GLSEN, an organization whose goals are ending discrimination and bullying based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression in K-12 schools. Its parent company, Fox Corp, actually supported the group in 2021. Psaki asked why figures on the right were so outraged about Pride celebrating merchandise now, given how many of the companies have embraced it for years. She went on to claim that Fox News' apoplectic coverage of everything from rainbow clothes for kids to fast food chain appointing a diversity, equity, and inclusion vice president 2 years ago is actually quite awkward. The tweet in question, posted by Fox News, reads, "Target takes aim. The retail giant provides annual donations to GLSEN, which calls for gender ideology to be integrated in all classes, even math." Well, it includes a graphic of a faceless person in a hood holding up a finger in a silencing motion alongside the text, "Retailer partners with an organization that encourages secret gender changes among children in schools." Now, I don't know. I know that we just saw a video about it hurting organizations' bottom dollar, but from what I understand, it really hasn't. The more publicity you get from these outrages, the more branding, marketing, and revenue. What I don't understand is how we are still talking about it. Well, we know Fox News is a bit hypocritical. Am I right? I mean, just because they are, or rather their anchors are having a stance in one way doesn't mean the organization has a stance the other way.
Well, I spent most of my career working in television news, and I've got a lot of friends, an ex even, that works or worked at the channel for a long, long time. And they've had these policies for years. Like, I think 10 years ago, they adopted a pro-trans employee policy. Mm-hmm. The thing is, though, is that a lot of these are motivated by by states. Like New York, where Fox News headquarters is, says you have to acknowledge these rights. So for them to operate in a state like New York or California, they have to have it, and it's easier to implement it company-wide than do it state by state. So, but they're by no means altruistic in they're trying to do this. And honestly, the opinion editors or opinion anchors at night, so the Hannitys and all that, I don't even remember who's there anymore, but they drive the bus. It's an old boys club. It's a good old boys club there. So just because these policies are there doesn't mean A, Fox wanted to implement them, or two, that they really believe in them on screen and even behind the scenes.
I agree, and I don't think they're talent, so they're not really corporate America. The people behind kind of the closed doors are actually kind of the operations, and I do believe they're probably a bit more inclusive than they let on to be.
Yeah.
The important thing, and what if you've never seen Jen Psaki, I can't listen to Jen Psaki without hearing Psaki bomb to the tune of the Runaways Cherry Bomb in the back of my head.
Amen to that.
Thank you, Stephanie Miller. Anyway, we need to keep pointing out and calling out the hypocrisy. That's just the bottom line, is that we just need to keep calling it out. Eventually, I think it goes to the old adage, if you give them enough rope, they'll hang themselves.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is another situation where a corporation is not just hypocritical, but is also, I don't know how to explain this. It is taking advantage of the moment. And unfortunately, every international corporation, I don't care if it's Anheuser-Busch or Mercedes-Benz or whoever it is, wherever they're landed in the world, you have so many different cultures and so many different diversity groups that you have to pay attention to regardless, that you're always in trouble for one thing or another, whether it be intentional or not. But in the Fox situation, it's truly intentional. And for that reason alone, we need to highlight it, and we need to remind people that you're talking out of both sides of your mouth to your personal benefit.
Well, and how about these retailers? I mean, how do we feel about, Target pulling back and taking some of these?
Well, we have a story about that soon, here in a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's worth talking about.
Well, until then, let's clear up health. Missouri governor signs ban for trans health care for minors and some adults. Transgender minors and some adults in Missouri will soon be banned from accessing puberty blockers, hormones, and gender-affirming surgeries under a bill signed Wednesday by the state's Republican Governor Mike Parson. Beginning August 28th, Missouri health care providers won't be able to prescribe those gender-affirming treatments for teens and children. Most adults will still have access to transgender health care under the law, but Medicaid won't cover it. Gender-affirming surgeries for inmates and prisoners will be outlawed. The law is set to expire in 2027 as part of a Republican compromise with Senate Democrats. Republican leaders of the House and Senate pledged months ago to pass bills, but the chambers disagreed on how restrictive the ban should be. The House ultimately took up the Senate's toned-down version of the health care bill, which includes an exception that allows transgendered minors to continue receiving gender-affirming health care if they have already started their treatments. The state's Planned Parenthood clinics have been ramping up available appointments and holding pop-up clinics to start patients on treatments ahead of the law taking effect. Yamelzi Rodriguez, president and CEO of Planned Parenthood of St. Louis region, said, "We will continue to do everything in our power to ensure all patients are supported, seen, and cared for. Any patient wanting to continue their gender-affirming care in a state that welcomes people of all identities. Our Fairview Heights, Illinois healthcare center is open to you, and we are here to help you make plans to get care." Now, I'm from Missouri. I grew up in Missouri, and I have family in Missouri, and it just shocks me that we're going through this, because it's Kansas City and St. Louis are the largest cities, and they're both Democratic, and the rest of the state is as red as a Republican can possibly get. But I think it's amazing that the healthcare, Ms. Rodriguez's healthcare's Planned Parenthood of St. Louis has made arrangements with the Illinois side, because those are two different states, even though they're separated by the Mississippi. I think it's smart for them to do so, but I think what's odd about this whole situation is that it's only for 3 years, 2027, 4 years.
Well, they're hoping for a different political climate in 4 years.
I understand, and I understand that, but I mean, by that, I would hope that they bring up a lawsuit saying, so for 4 years we play by these rules, and we don't know what's going to happen after that.
I in some circles that I travel in, 3 or 4 years is called a trial period. This is where they figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work, and they're going to find all their holes, and they're going to fill the holes.
And that's very smart.
So we need to use that same trial period to
blast
find
as
the
many
holes,
holes
bingo,
and
to,
build
to
those
not only find the holes,
strengthen them.
but make them even bigger.
You know, I think,
Were you trying to laugh too? I was trying to laugh. It was such a serious moment.
you know, a few weeks ago, we talked about how the Attorney General tried to just implement essentially this law without a vote. He put it, he declared a state of health emergency. He put up basically tattle on your parent, on your neighbors, on your for your website, and a judge struck it down. A judge said this is vague. This is essentially unconstitutional. So hopefully, a judge will look at this law and go, no, maybe this part, no to this part. So I think that it's going to undergo a very tough judicial review.
And it's still very vague. I mean, the language, as has been reported, is very loose, very fluid, because they were trying not to make it too specific, because you do have other, adults still getting their treatment. Not prisoners, but adults, and only those
Not prisoners and not anybody on Medicaid.
right. And but you do have people that are currently on treatment, which is why they're trying to get as many people in.
Well, let's move on. And next, we'll queer up business. LGBTQ plus rights organization call out companies backing down on their support for Pride. More than 200 LGBTQ plus groups angered by Target stores' decisions to pull Pride merchandise from shelves are demanding the company denounce extremists and restock all Pride merchandise in stores and online. The Human Rights Campaign and other groups released a statement asking Target and businesses alike, just like Anheuser-Busch, to reject and speak out against anti-LGBTQ plus extremism going into Pride Month. More than 200 other progressive and LGBTQ plus organizations signed on to the statement, which argues showing support for the community is good for business. The organizations laid out a three-part demand that calls on Target to 1, restock all Pride merchandise both in stores and online, 2, ensure the safety of Target employees, and 3, release a statement reaffirming their commitment to the LGBTQ plus community within 24 hours. Target displays LGBTQ plus themed apparel annually leading up to June. However, this year the retail giant came under increased scrutiny after customers noticed stores selling tuck-friendly women's bathing suits for transgender people and Pride apparel for children and infants. The company responded to widespread backlash over the Pride merchandising by moving some of the Pride products to less prominent sections of the store and removing other merchandise altogether. Target has released a statement saying, quote, "Our focus now is on moving forward with our continuing commitment to the LGBTQIA plus community and standing with them as we celebrate Pride Month throughout the year," end quote. And, this is just, it's such a sad story, but I'm really happy at point 2 that they made in their demands is look out for the safety of the employees, because that really is, it's the bullying that comes from the fascists, the Proud Boys, your run-of-the-mill Republicans. Yeah, that it's their bullying, it's their threatening that got this all to be taken down. So I appreciate that Target is saying we want, or our demands are saying, look out for your employees. That said, you also have to just stand by the courage of your convictions. You said it. You made the commitment, and in past years, there's been Pride merchandise in the back, and I never thought anything of it because that's where the men's clothes are. That's where I'm going to get my tank top for Pride. It wasn't a big deal. But once you've been moved to the front, going to the back is just unacceptable. And Target needs to realize that, and others, Anheuser-Busch, everybody else needs to realize that.
Okay, message to Mr. Bob Target or whoever you are. Do not put the gay stuff back unless you mean it. I don't want this transparent, disingenuous, rainbow corporate BS because you feel like, oh, we lost the game dollar, we need to get it back. No, if you stand with us, please stand with us because we're going through a lot this year, last year, years before. It's been a while now. And now you're showing up and now you're backing down because the Karen is like, I don't want this stuff. Can you please pick a side? Much like with the beer situation, when they gave the beer to the transgender person and then I guess reneged on it, but then they released a statement that was such a nothing statement. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a stance for us. It was nothing. And it's going to be the same thing with Target. So Bob Target, please actually stand for something. I need to know where you stand, so I need to know if I can go to your store to get some more products. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you on that. I just there's a little bit of a double-edged sword or something I'm struggling with in terms of, like, I don't want them to lose money, right? I don't want them to go down or go bankrupt, or I don't want them to get bombed or have these TikTokers come in and abuse the retailers and the workers, because they'll go in there and make, why is this infant, outfit have a rainbow on it, and you're trying to groom and so on and so forth. But what happens is, once they pull back, now they do us a disservice. Once they take those products off the shelf, now they're saying and claiming that we are not humans, that we are not good enough to shop in their store. So that rhetoric continues on to the rest of America. So we continue to fight longer and harder because it just affirms what everyone else is saying on the other side. That's the part that hurts me.
Well, I think I see both sides of the equation, and I'm stuck in the middle. But at the same point, I have to stand up. Anheuser-Busch still has their gay merchandise out there. Mm-hmm. Target still has their gay merchandise out there. Some. And I appreciate that. But I have to think back to 10 years ago when none of this existed. It is a difficult moment, and you made a valid point about that. But I also have to acknowledge that these same organizations are working behind the scenes outside of their stores or their products with the LGBT community. And at the same point, Coors, Heineken, countless other companies still have their gay stuff out. These companies aren't being discussed because they're not being targeted by the Karens and the Kens. Mm-hmm. I think it's an awkward moment for Anheuser-Busch. Growing up in St. Louis, I know half of the Anheuser-Busch family, and I know half of the employees growing up around it. I know they support the community. I think it's disingenuous for us to immediately think it's the worst, when in fact I know for common sense that they're still working with. It's just they're trying to figure out where the dust is settling so that they can figure out how to make it work for them so that they're not being attacked like they are. And that's a tough moment to get into. Yeah. There's no easy answer, and that's the only point I want to say is that there's no winning on this.
Yeah, I see your point of view.
Because so many other companies are succeeding in this, but they're not the targets.
Yeah, don't let the dust settle. Use a fan. Use your influence, whatever you have to blow the dirt and the dust somewhere else. Don't let it settle.
And I understand
You say where the dust is going to settle.
And I understand that, but it's only been a few weeks. So everything is still chaotic.
I mean, I will say I did see some stuff in Target. I'm not going to lie. I know we were talking about it before.
They've just pulled back a little.
Yeah, I went to Target like a week and a half ago too, and there was still plenty of Pride like gear and little like dishes and ashtrays and stuff. I saw a bunch of stuff. I was like, oh, they didn't pull back, but I'm assuming they pulled back maybe in those certain areas that are a little hostile.
Difficult. And the only reason I point this out is because I remember years ago being in advertising, begging for these companies to give me 10 minutes to talk about the community, to support our community. And I remember the difficulty it took to get them to the table to begin with. So I don't want them to pull back so much that they sit there and say, screw this shit, I don't need these insane people. But at the same time, I need them to still be there so that they're faithful to us in the long term. Because this is about years to come, not just the 3 weeks of hell that we're going 100%. Through for them.
I know, but call me a greedy millennial,
and we will.
As long as you stay young. I just need you to stand for something. I appreciate the time it took to get here, and I understand if I compare it to the past, it is leaps and bounds, but it's also not enough. It's like when you're with your homophobic mom, and she's like, I'll let you be gay, but don't bring your boyfriend around here.
And I get that. I honestly get that, but at the same point, I don't want us to forget how far we've come.
That is true.
We're going through a rough patch.
And, I wrote down, and it's kind of out of context. The important thing is we need to scream. We need to scream loudly. However, let's also keep in mind that a lot of times the people making these decisions to do whatever aren't the ones who may or may not be taking the bullets when they start flying. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't going to give props to Target, but in a way, I have to give them props for the higher-ups took a step back and said, we need to protect our employees, because that doesn't always happen in today's America.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very true. All right, let's get real light now. Next, let's queer up drag culture. Country star Maren appears on Billboard dressed as Willie Nelson with RuPaul stars to protest drag bans. On Wednesday, Maren graced the cover of Billboard alongside drag stars Eureka O'Hara, Landon Sider, Sasha Colby, the recent winner, and Simone. surrounded by all kinds of different drag. Morris decided to dress in full Willie Nelson drag, complete with the always on my mind singer's signature braids and old school country look. Billboard asked Willie Nelson what he thought of Maren's take on his classic look, and the country icon seemed to offer his personal stamp of approval. Morris had her own thoughts on the look, posting a photo of herself to her story saying she looked like Willie meets Wednesday, referring to the lovably misanthropic member of the Adams family. In their roundtable conversation, Morris and the drag performers talked at length about the ongoing legislative attacks against the LGBTQ+ community and what people can do to fight back. Morris, for one, offered some advice to her fellow country artists on speaking up for what you believe in. She said, and I quote, "You're gonna lose fans along the way. That is just part and parcel of being public facing. But there is a lane that you're widening, and I know everyone likes money. But is it worth your biography saying that you never picked a side because both sides paid money to buy a t-shirt?" That is, I stand for her. I love her. I didn't know about her until she was on Drag Race because I'm, again, so young. But I think this is wonderful. I think Willie Nelson as an icon standing beside, like standing for something, Target. I think that is absolutely wonderful, and it's gonna make waves. There are gonna be people that do not understand why he feels that way, and they may lean away from him. But there's gonna be so many gay country fans, young and other, who are gonna really appreciate him saying something like this. So thank you, Willie Nelson.
You know, you do. People get older. You know that, right? I think.
What's it like? I don't know. I have no idea what it's like.
I think she was not in drag. I think it was great. I think, you know, the drag culture is huge right now. For her to partner up with all these drag queens, I think is important. Especially her coming from country. Country is really tough on our community. Really, really, really tough on our community. And I think her making a stand, will make a difference, especially in that genre of music. It is really, really grotesque in ways, but I think they're coming around, and them being on the cover of Billboard is absolutely amazing.
Let's keep in mind that she is not the first. Okay, we had Shelley Wright, who came out as a lesbian.
Ty Herndon.
Ty Herndon. There's that brother, that really cute brother,
Osborne bro.
Thank you, TJ Osborne. Now that you've jogged my aging memory.
I guess you're going pyramid together.
I know.
Can't we have a get?
It's my country
Al,
background.
help me out. $10,000 pyramid. Let's go.
Love it.
No, but here's my, you got to give, you touched on it, but you got to give the props to any time a country music legend, personality, star, whatever, says something. Because, a celebrity says something, they take hits. But a country star gets it worse because they're very God, guns, and country in the Bible Belt where country music is king.
Yeah, but country stars have been starting this for years. They're not starting. They have been for years, coming out more and more for our community. And granted, I know that the country music is a very wide genre, and this is by no means most people in country music, but a lot of the brightest stars are shining, and they're shining for us. A couple years, I guess it's been about 4 or 5 years now, but Lil Nas X and Billy Ray Cyrus, that was such a crossover hit. But Dolly Parton, and of course Dolly Parton is Miley Cyrus's godmother, but Dolly Parton has always been there for us, and she gives really good hugs. If you see her out and about, get a hug from her.
How do you reach her? She's so...
Well, it's more like, it's
not going to touch
it's a European kiss like that. But, but Dolly and Reba McEntire, there's just so much support from their brightest stars, and hopefully we continue to keep their dark, hateful stars in a corner, locked away with and put them in there with a keg of Bud Light, just to make their day.
A pool of Bud Light.
Well, as a country music fan, growing up with country music and being so familiar with everybody that you're talking about, I think that the country music industry as a whole is finally starting to crack the door open. And not for nothing, this last year, Dolly Parton has been just pissed at the world for so many reasons. Her latest rock album, if you haven't gotten the snippets from it, really makes a lot of statements. And she constantly is challenging Tennessee to arrest her because she says she's the biggest drag queen of them all, even if she is a natural woman. You know, so I think that with support from Reba and some of these icons that we have, the younger generation is finally going, you know, it's time. We got to quit pretending that it doesn't exist, and we're going to do it the right way. So, you know, I think country music is 15 years behind Target and everybody else, but they're slowly coming forward because it's just time. And I think people are tired of playing by the old rules.
Well, next, let's queer up gay culture. Right-wing activists get Pride volunteers arrested while running chat that calls for mass shooting.
She didn't do anything. West Hollywood Pride refused to have private security or queer security volunteers. They wanted to have cops. And my friend who's a
the police walked by and laughed at the
Jairo Rodriguez is a right-wing protester and Trump supporter whose disputed police report to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department led to the controversial arrests of queer volunteers at West Hollywood Pride this weekend. It has been confirmed that he is the owner and operator of an online chat room that openly discusses killing and decapitating LGBTQ+ people, including one of the arrested volunteers. In addition to violent imagery and hateful anti-LGBTQ+ rhetoric, Rodriguez's chat room includes a discussion in which one of his members expresses a desire to commit a mass shooting at West Hollywood Pride if law enforcement officers are removed. Right Now Views, the moniker used by Jairo Rodriguez to post right-wing protest and provocateur content online, has a Telegram chat room that currently has 60 members. The chat room is filled with far-right and pro-Trump conspiracy theories and hateful rhetoric. Rodriguez has spent weeks using his Right Now Views platform to target a queer activist and Pride volunteer who goes by Zodiac for an alleged incident of a theft at a drag story hour that Rodriguez was harassing. Rodriguez claims Zodiac stole his phone. Videos from the incident show Rodriguez with his phone, though leading some to dispute his narrative and the police report. Okay, children, this one kind of pissed me off. Because my first question was, when can we bash back? Because, and then of course, I had to go back to a more genteel way, but, you know, I can't help but think, let me tell you why I asked the question, when can we bash back? Because we keep forgetting that just before my 4th birthday in 1969, and I'm about to turn 58, by the way, not to give away my age.
Which is what?
58.
Oh, okay.
And he can't hear you. He's also upstairs.
In any event, we're talking in my lifetime that a bunch of drag queens and trans women got pissed off at yet another unrequired raid on a gay bar in Greenwich Village, New York, and they fought back with heels and bottles and fists and tables and chairs, and maybe one of them got a hold of the billy club of the cop that had her in a headlock and used that against him too. You know, they are, again, they're gunning for us. I've said it before on this show. Here's further proof that they're planning our demise, and whether we like it or not, we're going to have to throw a punch sooner or later. We don't have to be the first one, but we got to be on our guard to duck when they actually do punch. And once they do it, I'm coming at them with my dead husband's metal cane.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I love how this side of the table is real negative and hostile. Over here is real positive.
Oh yeah, I'm Mr. Brightside. But you know, one of the lines in this story was that the guy said he would come and shoot a bunch of people up if police were removed. Well, two, you're a big fat coward. You know, if you know, you're gonna just go, oh well, you know, as long as no one's there to stop me, I'll do whatever I want. You know, well, screw you, buddy. Second of all, this is a real threat. It's the lone wolves and these smaller organizations that we need to keep track of. I interviewed Wilton Manors Police Chief Gary Blocker last week, and we talked about Stonewall security. Stonewall, he's one of the people in charge of that for the huge parade and party next weekend. About 50,000 people are going to cram into a 1 mile long street. And there will be a lot of security, but he talks about how the Joint Terrorism Task Force has been involved with them since December when they started planning this, in addition to Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, and other law enforcement organizations. But they're keeping an eye on us. We do have a guardian angel over our shoulder, but that eye is so tenuous. We have to continue to make sure we have allies, because it doesn't take much for one sheriff to go, you know what? You can have your parade. I'm not going to do anything about it. And that's where the real danger will start to kick in. We're not in danger of that here in South Florida anytime soon, but there are a lot of places across the country that are.
Well, especially for a smaller group like that. Like we had the same situation at Gay Orchard Festival. We really had to hone in on kind of security if we were going to hire private, you know, including, you know, some of the city workers that were going to help in terms of law enforcement. But what I've been threatened before. I've received a call from someone who was going to shoot up an area that I was in. They called me directly. It was the scariest shit I've ever received in my life. And I think that unless, you know, you hear these things in the story, it doesn't affect you. But when it touches you or it touches someone close to you, honestly, like it shudders you. Like you shut down. And I don't want our community to go through something like that. And something when they can get close to us like that, like a volunteer can get that close to us, it's really scary, and it's really, really cause for immediate shutdown. And I don't want us to go through that, and I don't know how we could stop that before it happens.
You can't really stop it before it happens, but there's got to be a combination of what Bob's saying. We have to be strong. We have to be diligent. We have to be aware of where we are, who's around us. We have to be proud and keep our mouths open and our ears open. But you know what? Let them strike first, because we will kick their ass. I mean, it's called self-defense. And I'm actually hoping, and I don't mean this in a weird way, but if somebody does take the first strike, I'm right there.
They've never tried it with me. I wonder why.
I wonder why.
They know I'll hit back. Boy.
I got my new teeth, so my fighting days are behind me. But I will throw a bottle. I will flip a
But I'm just
table.
saying, and that's the importance, because I think the biggest thing that's going to stop this is the legality issue. If we can keep these people in court, if we can get them behind jail, if we can get them, sentenced, that's what matters. You know, yeah, we'll get bruised, we might get a black eye, you know, whatever. But it's the sentencing, it's the continuation of using the law against these people to prove that we have our rights.
Well, next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church, and it's right here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. Eastern.
We finish tonight's queer news headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up the world view. Leading candidate for Prime Minister of Thailand speaks out in support of same-sex marriage. The Move Forward Party leader, Piat Nyamjan Roingrat, took part in the second annual Bangkok Pride Parade, which returned to the city last year for the first time since 2006. To celebrate Pride, 42-year-old Piat, who is expected to be named as Prime Minister in July, made a vow to legislate same-sex marriage within 100 days after taking power. In a statement, he said, quote, "Thailand is a country driven by love, not fear. Diversity is not a weakness, but a strength for this country. Love is love, and love must win. It's about telling the world about the values that we share."
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up the USA view. Pride flag outside Tempe, Arizona City Hall burned. A pride flag was taken down and burned outside of City Hall in Tempe, Arizona. The flag, which flew alongside the American, Arizona State, and Juneteenth flags, was raised this month to commemorate LGBTQ plus Pride. City officials confirmed the act of vandalism is under investigation by police. City manager Andrew Ching said, quote, "This act of aggression does not represent our community. Hate has no place in Tempe. We are committed to championing diversity, inclusion, and equity, and ensuring that our community is safe and welcoming for everyone," end quote.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up South Florida and Florida. The Adrienne Art Center celebrates Pride with 50 years of anthems.
Welcome to Pride Anthems. That's what it's like. Baby, ready or not, you make me feel. As long as I know how to love, I know I'm still alive. So don't be afraid to let them show freedom. Freedom feels good, don't it, y'all?
Celebrate Pride Month with a journey through the past 50 years of Pride anthems. From Donna Summer, Queen, George Michael to Erasure, Madonna, Lady Gaga, and more. Iconic songs from the disco era to today have come to represent the struggles, heartache, and liberation of queer lives then and now. Pride Anthems is a musical experience and celebrates and commemorates the legacy of Stonewall riots. Starring Natalie Joy Johnson, Kevin Smith Kirkwood, and John Michael Reese, with musical director Brian J. Nash. Pride Anthems is a show for all ages to come together in song and celebration of the advancements of the LGBTQ plus community. A portion of the proceeds will benefit Pride Live and the Stonewall National Monument Visitor Center, which will open in June 2024. The event is June 18th at 7 p.m. and tickets are available at artcenter.org.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Ujima Men's Collective honors Juneteenth with 2 LGBTQ plus events. The Ujima Men's Collective is collaborating with entities like the Trans Inclusive Group and Legacy Builders to produce 2 Juneteenth events. These events will be presented on June 19th to educate the community about the importance of Juneteenth and its origin and significance today. The organizers hope to raise $3,000 through these events, and the funds generated will be equally divided between the 2 events. The first event, Juneteenth at Mills Pond Park, will consist of a series of competitions including a grill-off, card games, board games, and recognition of the best of the best. The second event, Juneteenth Liberation Through the Arts at YMCA Mizell Community Center, will consist of entertainers, speakers, including It's Happening Out host Elimination, musicians, poetry, dancers, and an education component specific to educating the community about Juneteenth. The events will also offer opportunities to pursue HIV testing, HIV education, and information about where to receive HIV-related services.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up religion. More religious groups than ever are embracing Pride. At the Pride Fest in Santa Monica, 6 houses of worship, 5 churches and a synagogue had booths lined up all in a row. The Episcopalians offered table bowling. The Lutherans offered temporary rainbow tattoos. A non-denominational church lets anyone feeling lucky spin a wheel for prizes, ranging from coffee mugs featuring the Lamb of God holding a rainbow flag to a t-shirt emblazoned with Jesus wearing a rainbow crown of thorns. More pro-gay God talk at Pride this year is no accident. It's a national initiative of the Progressive Interfaith Alliance involving Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, and others. It's called Faith for Pride and is meant to counter the message of anti-LGBTQ plus rights legislation in state houses around the U.S. You can find out more at interfaithalliance.org. That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your family and friends. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience, watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on your Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. And one quick note, Mom, get well soon. Take deep breaths. I love you.
Aww.
I love you too. This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
Well, we made it. I'm your anchor, Jonathan Casañas, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including John Hayden, Buddy Frey, Bonnie Builder, and Bob Hentschel, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. To our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you good night.
Good night, everyone.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.